Welcome back to the Convo Couch, ladies and gentlemen. I am Pastor Jardula, and of course, Johnny Sue is on the ones and twos. And today we have a special guest. I was really excited to have him here. We have the Google YouTube whistleblower, Zach Vorhies, with us. How you doing, Zach?
It's good to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this show, man. Like I told you, I was so excited to have you on. This is something that's really, really important, and the mainstream media is just not covering this at all by design. So the fact that I reached out to you and you were willing to come on this show, it's just amazing, Zach. Thank you again for what you've done, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about you, Zach. Before we get to what you did, let's talk about Zach himself, because I want to know more about Zach. Because when you think about somebody who tried to do this, and I kind of researched a little bit of your history, and you're really like a fun guy, a cool guy. You know, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from the forests of Oregon, and then I went to the University of Oregon for 7 years. I got 3 majors in the sciences: psychology, mathematics, and computer science, with an undergraduate degree in a bachelor's of science. And then I went into the game industry in Oregon, which was like 3 companies in Eugene, Oregon. And then I came down to San Francisco to work at Lucasfilm in their game division, doing the Star Wars games and Indiana Jones. And then I ended up getting a job at Google, and I was there for 8 years with a little 3-year break in between Google Earth and YouTube. And that little break was an entrepreneurial exploration in which I created these really super awesome turn signal gloves for cycling.
Yes.
So people can signal their turning intentions, and other drivers on the road will see them as first-class citizens. And so I like to cycle, and I like to skateboard, so I use these all the time. But I went back to Google because the money was really good, and they hired me, right away. And I got my choice of where I wanted to work, and one of those choices was in YouTube, which they own.
Yeah.
And so I worked in their YouTube department, and I was part of the team that was taking the embedded player and putting it on the television sets and the game consoles. And so if you ever use YouTube on, a Nintendo Switch or an Xbox or PS4, I was part of the team that, made that possible.
I'm sure Johnny knows about that. Johnny's a big-time Fortnite player. And I used to do Halo back in the day, and I didn't even know you were a gamer. But you got these awesome, cool gloves on. And if I remember correctly, you were working on Google. This whole story happened with you and your friends, the light outfit. He came out from New York. You designed it. And then you left Google to go sell these gloves, correctly?
Yeah. So I left Google in 2013 to do a Kickstarter. And that was pretty successful, but I didn't structure the company right, and I didn't understand how the regulation of money went. So I just got hit with every single effing tax you could possibly imagine. And so I had to, it was actually the tax bill that finished me. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And I was like, well, I got to go satisfy all this tax bill liability. And it's really sad because I would not have had to pay all this tax if I had structured the company earlier. But I mean, that it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I went back to Google because the money's so good.
Oh
my gosh, it's ridiculous, right?
Hey, it is good. I think, in fact, you told me that, one of the things that when I said, oh man, Zach came out, he dumped all this stuff, how much was that guy making? Because now he's going to get to his stranglehold, because that's what they do. They try to strangle you. They try to not give you the ways and means to make financial gains. Like I told you, we're not even monetized. We got almost 25,000 subscribers. We have almost 1.5 million views over the last 2 months. And what kind of money would that have been that would have really helped us out? And we've been working for that goal. So when I see Zach Vorhies giving up, I believe you said almost $260,000, you're giving up your livelihood to do this. So what you did, you must have really felt strong about now, no?
I mean, yeah, I felt so incredibly guilty. Once I found out what Google was doing and how they were going to subvert the United States with their censorship, and they were lying about it. If Google's like, yeah, we're going to start censoring the internet, and we're honest about that, that would be one thing. But they weren't being honest. They were lying under oath to Congress, people, and they were lying to their shareholders, and they were lying to the American people. And I saw this AI weapon being like rolled out to all of their different products, and it was really scary to me. And so I just started like watching Google. What the heck is going on? What the heck is going on? And you know what? For most of my time there, the company was really great. They were really great with sticking with their principles. It wasn't until 2016 that things started getting crazy.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because you left the company and you went back. When you went back, before you went back, did you have a sense that they were doing some sort of nefarious things when you went back the second time, or no?
No, I had no idea. And I was pretty much asleep I was kind of like apolitical at that point. The whole like Clinton Trump election was like heating up, and I didn't really care about that. I was like pretty much disaffected. I was like, oh, they're both liars. You know, well, whatever happened, it's already predetermined. I'm not even going to vote. And so I went into Google, and they were a totally normal company that put their users first, and wanted to push self-expression and create this new type of media where the content creator was like the new voice, and help monetize them. And that was so awesome. I was like, yes, this is exactly what needs to happen. This is really great.
Yeah, I heard you say in an interview that's what really attracted you to Google and why you wanted to work for them, is because you felt it was this awesome thing going forward, as far as like, just making it the best for everybody information-wise, that they can grab all this stuff. But instead, they were being a little nefarious. What were your overall responsibilities, though, when you went back the second time for Google or YouTube when you went back?
I mean, so my responsibilities were a software engineer, and I was implementing the design specifications that were being put out by the tech lead. So that's what my thing was. It was basically a workhorse, like get the job done, that sort of Delta class within a company that does all the work. That was me. I was one of those grunts.
Okay. When you talked about some of these documents that you started seeing floating around, let's get this. You started seeing some documents floating around, correct? And you said it was on a public internal network, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
What is a public internal network? And do different employees have different levels of what they have access to, like in the military? In other words, there's different grades. Like certain people can read certain things, and other people can read more classified information over there. Can you give me a little explanation about what was going on? Because I want to try to get a sense of what people like yourself knew in Google.
Right. So there's actually not a lot of levels of security. There's basically like there's like a level where it's contractors, short-term contractors have access to the company, right? That's like the lowest priority. And then there's like full-time employees have access to most of the company. And then I think managers have like their own sort of like access credentials, and then there's like an executive class. But I'm not really familiar with what the managers were able to see and what the executives were able to see. All I knew is that, I had this much access to the system, and then there were other systems that had credentialed access, or kind of like siloed. Only the people that needed to know how to use it were able to get access to those systems. Mm-hmm. But the generalized access of full-time employees was pretty good, and I think that was what really bit Google in the ass in this whole operation, is just the amount of information they were willing to disclose to all the full-time employees and give them access to see.
I mean, some people have come forward and said, yes, these documents that Zach has released are very authentic, but not enough. I'm wondering why we don't have more people. I mean, how can we verify today that the documents that you released are authentic? Because you understand the smears that are going on from the mainstream media. I mean, when I type in your name in Google, one of the first articles that will come up will be the Daily Beast. Zach Vorhies, admitted, gave his information. James O'Keefe, who put it out there, is a QAnon lover, and he's a conspiracy theorist. How can we be sure, our audience today, that the documents you released are 100% authentic?
Well, first off, I'm a 100% authentic human being, because there's been a lot of media exposure that I've had through my Kickstarter. There was actually a YouTube shooting that happened.
Yes, I saw that video.
To the media. So first off, like, I am a real person. Second of all, There's 950 pages that I've released, high quality production level stuff. You know, to make that up, I would sit there and make 950 pages up about Google. Seems absolutely absurd. And if you look at it, there's different writing styles with the different documents.
Yeah.
You know, one of the slides deck is like 127 pages, and it's just like boom, boom, boom. Every single page has an artist that's like been touching it. So this is really an industrial level publication that's, you know, that's coming forth. So, you know, if anyone has any doubt about whether these are authentic, just look at the documents and look at the amount of work that it took. This is an industrial scale, you know, operation to make this many stuff.
Yeah.
And you can actually look at all the authors and trace them and see that, yes, well, that author is in that role, and you know that this is the stuff that they would write.
At what point did you think about coming forth and exposing the culture that Google was? Was it when the CEO came in there and talked to you? I believe her name is Susan Wojcicki, right? She's the CEO of YouTube, and she's a big Clinton donor. At what point did you say, wait a second, this is getting so nefarious, this is getting so dirty, I'm going to have to come forth with this?
The exact breaking point was when I discovered that Google was deleting words out of their dictionary in order to make Trump tweets sound crazy.
Yes.
And then the media was using that craziness as justification to try to invoke the 25th Amendment, Section 4, which can remove a sitting president due to mental incapacitation.
Yeah.
And so once I saw that whole operation go down, I was like, okay, this is beyond weirdo cultural stuff.
Yeah.
This is actually a national security issue. And regardless of what the consequences are, I have to come forward with this and expose it to the American public. Else I am a conspirator towards this like sedition.
Yeah.
So it was literally an act of sedition that made me decide that I need to do this no matter what the cost.
Were you the only one who understood that or knew that when it come to the kavefke? Is that you talk about the kavefke, right? Which means what does it mean? It means to carry on or something, or
it's an Arabic word meaning we will stand up.
Okay.
And Trump tweeted it right when he came back from Saudi Arabia, so it makes sense like what that means.
Yeah.
And Google wiped it off because they wanted to say that the tweet was nonsense.
Was this on the public internal network? That did other people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was actually one of the AI executives at Google had written up this document to get rid of the term. And the plausible deniability that they had within the document is that they didn't actually say, let's like delete the word, but they says, hey, let's replace it with the shrug icon. But they never replaced it with the shrug icon. They just deleted the word. So, yeah. So
they were trying their soft coup, at least like, you know, to make them look mentally unstable. They were also trying the Russiagate narrative and whatnot. So that's crazy. Are you scared, Zach, of the consequences that could come of you releasing these documents? I mean, I know you did the right thing, and I applaud you for doing it. I believe these, because I've looked through these documents, and, you know, over the last couple weeks, little by little, it's a lot of stuff, but I've looked through them, and I believe they're authentic. But are you scared of the consequences? I was almost afraid to ask you that today. Yeah,
I mean, whistleblowers tend not to live very long lives. I realized before I disclosed this that was going to be a risk factor for me, and that risk is still very high for me, which is the reason why I'm coming out to all of these radio stations and all of these video bloggers, is because I need to get my profile up so that they can't assassinate me. As far as how I feel about that, I came to terms with the possibility of dying for what I believe in 2018. I was at a festival and I just couldn't have fun, like no matter what. Everyone else was having a great time, but I just could not snap out of it. And something happened during the eclipse, the full eclipse, when I was standing in the shadow of the moon. And everything just clicked, and I was like, "Hey, it doesn't matter. Everything's going to be all right." And even if they do kill you, when I answer to my maker, and he looks at me and says, "Hey, you saw evil. What did you do about it?" I can say, "Well, I sacrificed everything to let the American public know that there was this AI censorship weapon pointed at them, and my conscience would be clear, even if I were to die. I know that no matter what." if there's no God, then I don't care anymore because I don't exist. And if there is a God, then I know that I'm going to be that I had done the right thing.
Well, a life is insignificant unless it has a special impact on others. And I think you've had an amazing special impact. And that was Jackie Robinson, by the way. Now, you talked about the AI, okay? In your opinion, what are the top 3 practices in which Google uses that are the most harmful to the public, and why? In means of algorithmic, how do you say it? Algorithmic discrimination?
Fairness,
did I say it right?
Yeah, algorithmic discrimination, ML fairness, or I like to call it ML unfairness.
Unfairness. You like to call them tube too, right?
Memtube? Don't know what that is.
Tube. Not YouTube.
Them-tube. Yeah, their tube. Their tube.
Their tube.
Yeah.
So what are the 3 biggest practices that the people can say, oh my God, like this is really, really bad?
Okay, so number 1. There is the search suggestion result. And this is really nefarious. So what happens is that if you go to Google search and you type in a search query, it's going to give you predictions that are based upon what Google says is what other people are searching for. So, go to Google search right now and you can type in men can, right? And it'll autocomplete. It'll say like men can have babies, men can have babies now, men can have periods, right? And if women type it in, it'll be like women can do it, women can vote, women can be drafted. And, Google says that they populate this based on the whole aggregate amount of searches that are going through its search engine. But I've been able to prove that this is not true because I can get access to all of that search information through trends.google.com and cross-reference that. Okay. Now, it's not just men having babies that's the problem. It's that you look at all the political stuff, like any political thing that's going on right now, they're poisoning the search results for all of these things. So the search predictions are wrong, but then what also happens is that the search results are getting hijacked by the mainstream media manipulation. Wow. So they're doing negative SEO attacks. So, for example, I was trying to find information on something that Trump had done to stop human sex trafficking across the border. Yeah. Well, because of the authoritativeness that Google was emphasizing on these corrupt mainstream media outlets, instead I was getting redirected to all these things about kids in cages and everything like that.
Exactly. They're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to, you know what I'm saying? Because that's where I think a lot of, especially with Democrats inside their own bubble, they don't understand that. And me being a person that says when it comes to Epstein that I think that Trump has been pretty decent on that. I think Trump has done the right thing, and I've done a lot of research on that. Now, that doesn't mean I'm a Trump loyalist or a Trump fan. I happen to think that Trump stinks on foreign policy. But the fact is that they're also censoring a lot of the Epstein stuff just because Trump might have a positive influence on the case when he directed the lawyers the right way. What's another practice other than that?
It's the YouTube search queries are really poisoned at this point. YouTube? Yeah, they've been banning people that, and both on the left and the right, they've been banning people that disagree with the establishment narrative, and what they've been doing, which is really insidious, is they've been dropping the search traffic for all of these video sites. And the way that they do this is that a lot of times the recommendation engine will say, well, if you like A, then you're going to like B, right? And so what they've been doing is that they've been trying to redirect everyone so that they go towards MSNBC, CNN, and Fox.
Yes.
And they just try to keep you on this carousel of establishment news propaganda, and you have to physically stop it, go somewhere else, and search for this content. Now, the content that you used to be able to find really easily on the first page of YouTube search has been now buried. Okay, you can't find it anymore.
I agree.
What you have to do is you have to go to the 5th page in order to see this. And what a lot of influencers are realizing, let's say you got Paul Joseph Watson, he is. He's an influencer. You may like him, you may not. The thing is that there's these people that are critical of him that don't have very many subs, that have very poorly produced videos. They're getting ranked above Paul Joseph Watson. Even if you type in Paul Joseph Watson, the first people that you're going to get are the people that are criticizing him.
I know.
With hardly any follower counts.
Yeah, we've experienced that too with like I said, with Epstein. We have a video that has 500,000 views, but you type it in YouTube, you can't find it to like page 8, and it's always MSNBC, CNN, all these other channels that, quite frankly, stink on this subject, and the fact that they're demonetizing my friend's videos because I'm not eligible for monetization, but Graham Elwood, who has really taken the story under his wing because it's really important to him, they've demonetized the majority of his Epstein videos, and it's just ridiculous. I can't understand why.
Over. So they're trying to cut off the revenue stream because they don't want people to get money because they don't want to support what they think is the enemy, which is really weird because they should just be an exchange. Why do they have a dog in the fight about who gets – like this should be a free market of ideas, right, where the best idea wins. But
absolutely.
Not, now another one – so I've given you 3, but I'm going to give you 4. Another nefarious thing that they're doing is that they are allowing exploits, these vulnerabilities within the system.
Yes.
And there's a unknown group of third-party insiders that have knowledge of these exploits, and they're hacking the engine in order to get their agenda across. So, for example,
go ahead.
I believe, and I wrote a Medium article on this. I believe I know how they. I believe I know how they took down Tulsi Gabbard's ad account after the first Democratic debate, because I saw how insiders took down Jordan B. Peterson. And after talking to Tulsi Gabbard's attorney that was suing Google, I saw the same patterns of communication that Google was sending him that I saw with Jordan B. Peterson. So let me explain how Jordan B. Peterson was taken down. Okay.
Go ahead.
Some insider figured out Jordan Peterson's email account. And so what they did is they took the first part that, before the @gmail.com, and then they took one letter and they flipped it. They changed it to another one. And then they created an account. And they did this again and again and again and again. And then pretty soon you get this like network of like spam accounts. Well, these spam accounts then start pushing spam to other accounts. And so the AI comes around and says, oh, look at all these spam accounts. Okay, well, this was similar to this. It basically gets rid of everything that's like super similar to the spam botnets, including the target account.
Okay. Now, go ahead. I have questions right off the bat.
Ask me a question.
So now this happened. Somebody went Tulsi with a $, Gabbard.1, Tulsi Gabbard.1, whatever. They create all these similar accounts. It tricks the AI. It shuts down all the systems, including the original one, which you said can easily be programmed to say not touch the original one. Who is making that decision to say don't take away the original one? In other words, who's okaying the tripwire within these systems? Is this Google executives telling the programmers?
It's a bug. It's a bug that doesn't get fixed. Okay, that's how it works.
Okay.
Right? There's a whole vector of attacks. Yeah, they don't fix it. And the reason why I know about this is because I saw like this bug report for the Jordan B. Peterson. They're like, oh, there's like a weird bug here where it just takes down all the accounts, including Jordan B. Peterson's account. And I was just like, why don't they fix that? Like, all they have to do is look at the timestamp of the account creation, realize, well, these were just created, and these are the problem accounts. So we're just going to get rid of all the problem. Like, it's mind blowing that that account that gets created 10 years ago also gets taken down when these accounts that were created, like, let's say yesterday, all at the same time. Well, like how are these getting lumped together?
Yeah, because it's weaponized and they want it that way. Who do you think, in your personal opinion, Zach? You talked about a third party, and I've been trying to guess this the whole time. Did Google pass that information on to Kamala Harris's campaign because Tulsi went after her hard? Did they pass it to somebody on DNC, or is it just like executive Google loyalist of the Democratic Party that set the tripwire? Who, in your opinion, got a hold of this and shut her down?
It's just all speculation, but I mean, the thing is that I don't know. Do you believe in the deep state?
Of course.
So there's this umbrella of the deep state, and one of those actors in there like had this knowledge, whether it was, I don't want to name names because I'm afraid that they may come after me for doing this, but like one of the smaller ones is Sleeping Giants. They've been instrumental in trying to take down all kinds of websites, including Breitbart. And so, in my opinion, and so
they're called what again?
Sleeping Giants. They've got a rainbow Marxist fist on Twitter, and they're pretty open about trying to take down a whole bunch of different players that have a counter narrative to the left.
Okay.
Right? They're a bunch of authoritarians that are intolerant to speech they don't like, and so they'll do whatever they can to take down other people. And there's actually been a lot of sleeping giants referenced in the internal Google communications. And so for some reason, this sleeping giants organization has an inside track to harassing advertisers to try to deplatform people.
Ah. Who's Sleeping Giants owned and funded by, do you know? Or
I don't know. I don't know. There's a whole bunch. I mean, it's like, why does the ACLU retract from their like they're backing away from free speech? Like, how does this happen? Right? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. It's just mind-boggling that that this is going on, because it's going against the First Amendment. It's going against the presumptive liberties of a liberal society within America.
It's terrible. Yeah,
it's terrible. Why do these people have access?
This is really bad. I mean, this is really, really bad. And I say this before. I think that we haven't been able to get monetized. Well, I can't even say it. We haven't been able to get monetized. Thank you. I'm getting excited here because we are anti-war AF, and that's why I think that Tulsi Gabbard is getting attacked. Do you have any beliefs on why you think Tulsi Gabbard is getting singled out on the left?
I mean, when I go back and I look at the history of different candidates like Ron Paul, what I see is all kinds of dirty tricks that are being played. Like Ron Paul came out and said something about like the Fed or something at CPAC, like almost a decade ago, and everyone cheered. And then Fox News like replaced the cheering track with a bunch of boos to make it seem like the consensus hated the idea of like I think it was getting rid of the Fed, but I'm not sure. And so what you see is these establishment players that you think are on your team, and what they do is that they stab the candidates that they don't like in the back to get rid of them. This is what's happening with Tulsi Gabbard. She is strong. People like her. They like her anti-war message. And as a result, the establishment needed to get rid of her because they really want like a Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren or one of these like puppets that, will put us into war and send our soldiers to die, for whatever reason. And it's really sad because these people will pretend to be anti-war, but as soon as they get into office, they're going to be like Obama. They're going to take down a bunch of nation states.
Yeah, that is true. And I think that that's why Tulsi is definitely being attacked. And you also mentioned the deep state, and I've said this before, because the deep state is just a bunch of intelligence agencies or members within the intelligence agency that have never been elected. They've been appointed, and it's been different cabinets along the whole way, and they're so tied into the military-industrial complex that I think you see the military-industrial complex, the deep state, and the establishment work together to try to shut out Tulsi. Do you think that Tulsi's lawsuit was just a waste of time, or do you think it was? I think it's something heroic because it's it's kind of putting the target on what Tulsi does. And do you think that Google will settle with Tulsi?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
I'm
trying to figure out, some sort of clear-cut case or law that can be used to punish Google. We know that they're in violation of Section 230 of the Telecommunications Decency Act by acting as a publisher when they declared themselves to be a platform.
Yes.
But the problem about that is that there's really no remedy. Okay, they're like, well, you can't do this, but we're not going to actually give you a punishment if you do it. And so there's this problem of like, what are the teeth when someone violates this? And so I really wish, Tulsi Gabbard's like attorney the best of luck. I hope that he does discovery and is able to somehow, expose these documents of what he finds to us so that we can all see, so that we can all take protective cautions. But at this point, I'm trying to, it's like on one hand, Google is acting as an unregistered lobbyist when they nail somebody like this, right? And there's a whole bunch of election laws that I know can just like kick in, but for whatever reason, the Trump administration isn't going, on them for election interference, right? So I think that maybe election interference on its own could be a viable, a legal avenue. But God, man, like I don't know, like the best thing that I've been able to see so far is an antitrust lawsuit against Google. Yeah. Really, because they're really acting like they're violating all kinds of things in the Sherman Act, antitrust act, and they are, engaging in racketeering, collusion, conspiracy, like all the bad things. But man, those are really big, like once every 3 generation actions that come forward to like nail a company. And, is Tulsi Gabbard big enough that they're going to be able to like get Google on an antitrust thing or election interference? I'm not sure. It may take a cultural movement in order to bring these people to heel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you also talked about, and I agree with you there, man, to bring these people to heel, forget about it. But, I just want to start locking up some executives so the rest of the people can see what happens. It's
at least on perjury.
Something.
At least on perjury. Yeah.
Oh, totally. So doesn't Google have the ability to find out where these Fugazi, excuse me if you don't know what the word Fugazi means. Fugazi is Italian-American for fake. To find out who started these fake accounts. I mean, can't the lawyers somehow subpoena Google to give them the information from what you've given them to say, hey, who started these phony accounts, and find out who tripped the wire? Doesn't Google have the ability to do so? And shouldn't the public demand we know who started these phony accounts?
I mean,
can't we trace them?
Maybe. The thing is that no, not really, because, well, in the best case scenario, yeah, if they did it without a VPN or some other protection, but if they did use a VPN, then we won't really know who created these accounts, because the IP address that we get is going to be based off what the VPN is, and it's not going to be based upon what the real person's IP address is. So the answer is maybe we can figure it out. But the thing is that it's going after the perps is not the problem. The problem is the bug. And the question is, why hasn't Google ever fixed this bug? Hopefully they fixed it now, because I've exposed it. But, we need to see the chain of command. Did people report this bug? What happened to those bug reports about this problem? And why was it ignored? Why was it allowed to be kept open, even when it had a clear and present national security issue?
Yeah. Let me ask you another question. Let's make a little bit of turn. Thank you for all that insight on Tulsi, and I think that was some great insight. Before we get to what can be done to protect Americans from censorship and further attacks from big tech, let me just ask you, because I want to kind of address some of the rhetoric that's going online. And not that I don't, I really don't listen to a lot of this stuff, but do you have a horse in the next election? I mean, are you supporting anybody?
No, not this. I mean, here's the thing. I like what Trump has done. As an entrepreneur myself, I know that how bad, China was taking advantage of Trump. The problem with Trump is that he's not likable, just on a fundamental level. I've got family that just hates his guts, and from a policy standpoint, all the things he's done with trade and trying to make everything equal now in terms of tariffs that go on our products. I imported a product to China temporarily so it could be put into this glove and then reshipped back out. I got hit with a 25% tax.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, I don't pay any tax at all. I thought we had free trade. And it turns out, no, we just have free trade going out of China. And so that needed to stop. Trump has come in there and he's stopped that. I support the wall. I support, an American first policy with our government. I mean, duh. Like, obviously our government should do that. I believe in a social safety net, and I want to get all the homeless people out of the street. And I believe in lower taxes. Now the thing is that whoever supports that sort of thing, that America First, like, I'm going to be for it. I thought, as far as a Democratic candidate, I thought that Tulsi Gabbard, I'm actually still really excited about Tulsi Gabbard. I'd like to see Tulsi Gabbard get up, because I think that she just loves America, and she wants to get us out of all these wars. And I'm 100% for that. And so if there's a candidate that isn't a corrupt politician on the left that gets to challenge Trump, I may actually support them. Okay. So that's
the reason why I wanted
answer.
to ask that, Zach, is because today or yesterday, I believe you put up a tweet that said that they were taking away likes from a QAnon video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I know that the attacks that are coming, because we're starting to get them. We did this whole episode where we talked about the who's, the where's, the why's, and who's involved in Epstein. And even somebody slandered me, and then somebody slandered, actually, TYT slandered my partner and said, this is the QAnon on the left. And I know they're going to kind of hit that
Wow.
avenue, and they're going to say, I know, because, and it was just ridiculous because they're scared too, because, you know, TYT, I don't want to get into them right now and stuff, but that's the way the attacks are going to come. And a lot of people are saying, well, this Zach Vorhies, guys, he's just a Trump lover. He's a QAnon conspiracy theorist. Why should we listen to him? So that's why I wanted to ask that question and stuff. Was there a reason why you chose to put that other video up instead of maybe another video?
Here's the thing. Whatever they say about QAnon, QAnon dropped the whole Epstein thing in 2017, okay? 2 years ahead of the whole news cycle. And everything that QAnon was talking about in relation to this conspiracy to frame Trump, we all knew about it over a year ahead of the whole rest of the news cycle. So how did QAnon have such great insider intel that all came true? Because it wasn't just like a couple things. It's not like Nostradamus where, you know, most of it doesn't stick, but like some of it sticks. No, QAnon was releasing intel consistently with a narrative of what had taken place and what the anti-Trump coup was, and it all came true. There has been some disinfo. QAnon has mentioned that there was going to be disinfo, and the community was like, okay, we understand that there's disinfo, and the reason why there's disinfo is that QAnon says, oh, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming. The deep state reacts thinking that's going to happen, and then it's actually they've got a plan. They've got the real plan, which goes into effect. Yeah. So I understand what QAnon is. It's an intel dump. And right now it's down because 8chan is down. Now, one of the supporters of QAnon released a video, and it was really popular. It was like 10% of the views converted into a like. Well, Google went and wiped out 90% of the likes.
How do you have proof of that?
Because I was there when the video got released. I was literally at my desk when the video got released, and I was like, wow, this is really good. Oh my God, this has got, because I'm a metrics guy, I like marketing. So whenever I see a high engagement rate, like it gets me really excited. So I was like, wow, this video is getting 10%. And then the likes kept on going up. And then like the next day, the content creator went out to Twitter and said, Google just wiped out 90% of the likes. And I went, what? And I looked in and I was like, yeah, the likes went down. They just dropped through the floor, and now it's a 1%. So 1%.
How is that legal? How is that legal? I mean, that's screwing with somebody's livelihood, a business's livelihood, by, you know, defaming their product unjustly. I mean, how is that legal? Because they're a private company.
They're a private company, and they claim that they can do what they want, and they claim that they can lie to the American public, and so they're not beholden to anything, because they don't have any contract that states they can't do it. And there's no law that says that they can't do it. So they just do it. But they lie about it because they don't want us to know that it's doing it, because it's a PR disaster. So yeah, I posted that because, you know, somebody else did an interview and YouTube stopped their likes for 5 hours.
That's right? Ridiculous.
No, sorry, not their likes, their view counts. They stopped the view counts.
Okay, even worse.
Yeah.
Even worse.
So what I wanted to do is I wanted to hit, because I had this story in the back of my mind about how they'd suppressed this one video, but I wanted to wait until Google did it again so that I could turn it into a story as a reaction. And so that's the reason why that I posted that.
Okay.
So,
well, do you think that Trump's executive order will be better than what we got right now? I mean, I know there's a lot of people, you know, I think you peeked in the show we had last week with me, Tim Canova, and Ron. And, you know, he's like, wait, this is not the way there is a problem, but that's not the way they handle the problem. Where me and Tim Canova were like, hey, man, any bad oversight is better than no oversight whatsoever. What is your personal opinion? Have you looked at the Trump's executive order at all? The leakage of it?
Yeah, I did. Here's the thing, man. Trump really missed out on an opportunity to take the net neutrality bill and then expand it to social media. What people don't realize is that net neutrality didn't cover Google. It didn't cover Facebook. It didn't cover Twitter. The only thing that it covered was like Comcast and these ISPs. And these companies aren't the ones that are like censoring. They've never censored. Now that net neutrality has been lifted, they're still not censoring data. It's always been the danger of big tech hosting companies like Google. And net neutrality never even covered them. And this was a huge surprise to me because when I was working at Google, I was giving to their net neutrality fund because I was really wanting to make sure that the net was staying neutral. And, you know, what Trump could have done is he could have gone in there and gone to the FCC and he's like, hey, look, we're just going to expand net neutrality to everyone and fix the whole problem. Instead, he just canceled the whole net neutrality thing.
He missed an opportunity.
He missed an opportunity. And now that and you know what? Like, I don't see all the strategy. Like, maybe it was just going to be he didn't have the votes to, like, you know, expand it, and so they just decided that canceling it was going to be better. Maybe that's the way that it was done. But man, if they just could have just expanded it to Google, they would have been able to do what they're doing right now.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Well, you know, I never thought about it that way. Thank you for producing that insight. Let me ask you another question. Do you know of any strong connections between Google and YouTube elites that have any relationship with high-ranking members of the Democratic establishment?
Project Veritas was able to show that there was a inside channel between the New York Times and YouTube or Google. I think it was Google News, but that's the only one that I've been able to verify.
Did you the question about that? Did you ever think about releasing these documents to somebody else that had a bigger platform, to Project Veritas? Maybe like a WikiLeaks of sorts that it can got out there a lot bigger than just Project Veritas?
I don't know if you know this, but most of the people that have been involved with WikiLeaks are now dead.
Well, I mean, an outlet like WikiLeaks, and I understand. Yeah, well, Julian Assange is hopefully still alive.
He was holed up in a in the Ecuadorian embassy. As far as I'm concerned, WikiLeaks at that time was completely compromised. The New York Times would have stabbed me in the back. Washington Post would have turned me in. It was basically Breitbart and Project Veritas were the only outlets that were able to carry this story forward. And Breitbart actually suggested that it was going to be Project Veritas because they needed a human element. They needed an operation to get someone on the inside admitting to the same things that my documents were exposing. So Project Veritas just hit all the right angles. And the guy, James O'Keefe, like, I know that the media loves to slander him and call him uncredible. The guy's never had to do one retraction in all 100 stories that he's ever published. Well, so yeah, they say that because they don't like the content of what he's saying, not because it's untrue. He's never had to do a retraction.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you. Well, he has to retract one thing, because when I was watching that video, in the beginning of the video, he was talking about the progressive liberal agenda. There's nothing progressive about their agenda. It's neoliberal agenda that they're going on. But I think that is a misconception. Back in the days, I don't think people on the left, or whatever you want to call us, recognize the difference between the establishment Republicans and the Tea Party. And I think that's going on right now, where they're not recognizing the difference between the progressives that we are, that fight for civil liberties, like a Project Veritas, and the establishment left. But I just wanted to point that out anyways. That was nothing really.
I mean, it's all weird, right? Like, you're like, well, the neoliberal, and it's just like, well, what does liberal mean? Like, liberal means freedom, and like, I don't really see the company being neoliberal or liberal. I don't think they deserve the title liberal. I think they deserve the term authoritarian, because that's what they're doing. They're deciding as gatekeepers.
Fascist.
It's fascist. It's fascist.
No, they talk about, like, I notice the establishment likes to talk about Donald Trump being fascist with his views as far as race and what happens at the southern border, as opposed to the fascism that they keep on suppressing our voices, which to me is way more of a dangerous form of fascism than people's opinions. Excuse me. Let me ask another last question before we get you out of here. Should we be concerned as citizens that for any candidate that receives money and funds from Alphabet? In other words, I recently went after Ro Khanna for going after Tulsi Gabbard because I felt that he was heavily funded by people at Google. But there are fundings from people, at Alphabet that fund Bernie Sanders. Can we distinguish between the two of them? Because are there a lot of people at Google who might be like yourself who would fund certain characters because they want to straighten out stuff at Google? Or is it more like it's nefarious if they're funding from Google and they're taking that money?
I think there's a difference between Google giving money to a candidate or a super PAC, and the difference between that and the people that work there giving money to a candidate or a super PAC. I think I always trust the people. I never trust the institutions. And I think that, like that's basically how it comes down to me. Like, I think that anyone that Google is supporting at this point is could be a bad actor.
They're willing to play ball. Yeah.
Yeah, it's willing to play ball, right? And here's the thing: is that I feel that money's starting to matter less and less in politics. It's more about the influencer network and the attention economy, and it's really a lot harder to buy authentic views from people like you sitting on your couch trying to do the right thing. Some companies not gonna be able to come in and just buy you out and turn you into a little mouth puppet like they have on MSNBC. That just doesn't happen. And that's usually why they're so scared. That's usually why there's so much censorship right now, is because they know in this new attention economy, the people that actually speak the truth are the ones that people are listening to. Okay. And they don't want to sell out. And so, I think that I'm really excited for this next election because the networks are getting stronger. I mean, like the human networks, the ground bottom up human networks are getting stronger. And when I see the establishment fight harder and harder and harder against it, I just laugh because the whole nice face the mask has just been ripped off. And now we see this really ugly authoritarian thing that wants to, listen to all of our conversations and see all our data. Like the whole thing's just being exposed right now. And society's it's kind of changing. We're in a phase transition. We're to the next thing.
I like it. And, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the song that's in my mind is "The Wall Come Crumbling Down," and I kind of feel like it. We made that joke. Now we're all conspiracy theorists nowadays. So if we're all conspiracy theorists, then we're not conspiracy theorists. And I like what you said. Let's get a little fun lightning round and get you out of here, Zach. Okay. I got some stuff in the oven. I got to get up there. We're doing barbecue today, and we got the New York Mets on in about a half hour. So you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Lightning round.
Lightning round. Coffee, hot or cold?
Ooh, hot.
How do you like it?
With coconut oil, blended.
Nice. Favorite pizza place to get a slice in San Francisco?
Right next to my house at Serrano's. It's going to be a broccoli pesto cheese with tomato sauce.
Well, of course you would say something like that. Heavy metal, grunge, or classic rock?
Classic rock.
2 songs that you're listening to a lot right now in your iPad or your iPod, whatever you call it. Your music.
Next question.
Halo or Fortnite?
Halo.
Last question. It's a big one. It's very hard. Okay. Better music. Tupac Shakur or Biggie Smalls?
I'm going to go with Tupac.
Well, you know what? You didn't get everything right, but we'll let you be. Zach Vorhies, Google, YouTube, data dumper, a hero in my mind. Zach, thank you for doing what you're doing and what you did, and keep speaking out there. If there's any way we can help you out in this network to reach out to other progressive channels, just give us the word and we'll do that, Zach. You got anything to say before you get out?
Yeah, I want to tell your audience, please help me stay alive by keeping your eyeballs on me. Please follow me on twitter.com/perpetualmaniac. So my username there is perpetualmaniac. So please see the story that is unfolding. It's really entertaining, and we're really hitting Google and holding them to their own standards. So follow me on Twitter at perpetualmaniac.
Fight for your civil liberties, ladies and gentlemen. Zach Vorhies, thank you so much. For Pasta Jardula on the Convo Couch, Johnny Sue on the 1s and 2s. Will you come back and do this again with us, Zach?
Absolutely.
Thank you, my man. Convo out.
Thank you.